Got it. All right. First, we need to approve today's agenda and last minutes meetings. Did everybody get both of those?
Yes, sir, I did.
Awesome.
Anybody else? All okay?
Yep. So I guess motion to approve.
I move that we accept the minutes and the agenda as disseminated.
Can we get a second?
I second.
Awesome. All right. Treasurer's report. I don't. Doesn't look like Amy's on.
No, but she, Mr. President, informed me via text because she's on a plane. It's probably to the Pacific Northwest. Anyway, everything's good. We have about 30K in Chase Bank. Taxes will be filed next month with Bruce, our accountant. Sorry to miss. So we're solvent, Mr. President.
Awesome.
Add that to the minutes.
That is great. So I guess first order of business, we're kind of talking about it earlier. I've accepted a position in Portland, Oregon. So I'm not able to fulfill my duties as president. I'll be stepping down August 4th. It's been a pleasure to serve alongside y'all. This has been a great organization to be a part of. Yeah, there's lots of tree people out here. I mean, y'all are the good ones. It's a bittersweet move, but in order to continue growing, I feel like I really need to do this move. I do have some kind of unfinished business involving Texas tree trails, which I'm going to get over to Steve Hauser. I got my SD card for that, and so I'm going to get him over some measurements for that. And I encourage y'all, if any of y'all want to volunteer for something, that tree trails, it's fun stuff. I mean, he essentially gives you coordinates and trees to look up, and you go measure them and take a look and record, and it gets recorded to make sure it's still the regional or whatever championship tree it is. So I recommend getting involved with that if you haven't had the chance to. Again, my last day is on Friday, but I'll be around for the next couple of weeks. I'm not leaving until September. And so if something pops up, I mean, I'm going to be mainly on sabbatical and vacation, but I can help out a little bit if something comes up and I'm available. But yeah, thank you all very much for helping me grow. It's been an honor and a privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I mean, oh my gosh. You're going to have so much fun.
Yeah.
You want us to send you a t-shirt?
I would like a t-shirt. I'm not big into gifts, but I'll take a t-shirt.
Nice.
But yeah, bittersweet, but it'll be it's what I need right now. I might be back, but I want to spend some time on the West Coast first.
Well, congratulations. So was there something you wanted to add to that, Mr. President?
I think that's about it. Unless I'm
No. Is
No.
there anyone that would like to step up at this point?
Oh yes. Important parts. Yes. So we need somebody to step up, 1 into the secretary role and 2 into the president's role. I mean, we're halfway through the year, and so it's wouldn't be that long, but yeah, just start thinking. If you have anybody in mind, bring it up to the board. We can talk about it. But yeah, we're looking for good people.
And I will assist. We'll all assist anyone that wants to play, because we have a lot of outside interests now. People that want to come and assist. Of course, it's summer, nobody's playing now, but they want to join us. We need to have people here to assist them. So, y'all think about it. I need help. I can't be secretary, vice president. All right, I can, but it's going to get a little crazy, especially since you see this beach scene, guys. We're headed back for BBB 23, so I'm going to be out of pocket in September a little bit. And we have we're pulling away from the Cross Timbers Urban Forestry Council conference, so we're going to have to start to work on the conference, the bilingual conference, and get that going so we can get our sponsors locked in before they're locked in for North Central Texas workshop. Anyway, Mr. President, if I'm sorry to ramble on, if you want to carry on.
No, that's fine. You're actually the next person to speak anyway. Old business.
Oh,
Just kind of,
and we need a secretary. And then it just goes into that rainbow workshop that they had in Dallas on the 20th. I think that was last week. Did anyone attend that? Christopher or Preston? Jonathan?
Yeah, it was more oriented for commercial landscape companies, I think.
And was it well attended?
I don't know, I wasn't there, but
Oh.
it was yeah, it was mainly there was a lot about I don't know, there was a thing on growth regulator, and it was a lot of different chemical applications that don't really.
Yeah, I understand. But there are applications. It's just not really on our area, except for
Yeah,
tree growth regulators. Didn't y'all do some work with that?
I don't think we ever deal with them in public works, but I think parks might do some regulator applications when they're doing construction around mature trees.
Because I thought y'all sprayed some trees out on the right of way. And I was wondering how they did, but that's another day, I guess. So I guess it's over to you now, Mr. President. The aerial survey update.
so I talked with Mac about that before our last meeting. I've not followed up. Is Mike on this call? Have you heard anything about that?
So we need to follow up, basically. Gotcha.
Yeah, I need to follow up with Mac and Mike on that.
Okay.
All right. Next is business meeting time. I guess last time. What's shade keeper training?
Okay. We're going to keep the meeting time the same, guys. Is that all right? 12 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
It's okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. And then shade keeper training. The indoor portion is going to be from 1 to 5 on November 4th at Grand Prairie Library. And unfortunately, I don't remember if that's the Betty Womack or the main library. It's Betty Womack. I'll send out the address. And then November 18th is going to be outdoor, but we haven't determined the location. Then February 3rd, we're going to do fruit tree pruning. So you can ask Josh about that. We had fun. And I think he realizes why they call me Butcher.
It was a good time, and I'm glad we're doing it at the right time next year.
Yeah, exactly. We were a little late.
Just a little.
And then go ahead, Josh, carry on.
Nope, that's it.
Saluting branches. Chris, what do we know on that? I got an email today. Has everyone registered?
I got our guys in Park and Rec registered this morning.
Okay, it came out.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
You didn't?
I don't think so.
Well, I don't remember. Jonathan, do you remember the date?
Yeah, I'm on, Susan. So the saluting branches is going to be September 27th, even though the website's going to say September 20th. Disregard that. There wasn't a way for them to edit the website, so it'll say the September 20th, but it is a week following the Waco conference, so September 27th.
Okay.
Same location at Butler Nelson. Now, the National Cemetery is looking for a crew leader, a site leader for that. I was gonna try to reach out to Stars and Stripes and see if they would like to do it. Preston's made contact with them. They don't have a lot of work, but they, could, put a small crew together. So we'll see if the discussion I had with Saluting Branches was that if we can't find a site leader, that we just have the one at Butler Nelson and just go into going to the National Cemetery, but we should probably reach out to that sponsor. Do you know, Preston, what is it? The Daughters of something?
PAR, I
like that.
know those ladies personally.
So if they don't have a presence at the National Cemetery, we should probably reach out to them and invite them to come to ours.
Okay,
Even if they don't want to travel, that still invite them.
okay.
I've called, I got, the only thing I've got, solid right now is the, catering for the food. I called, Crown Catering and got us on the calendar, for her to, provide, the food truck again.
Okay, so food secure, location secure. What does the site leader entail at the National?
Well, you have to, pretty much everything. You coordinate. They send you the T-shirts, the banner. You coordinate the work, the food. You get the whole enchilada.
Okay, so when you get to the site, are you guided to a location, or are you just supposed to peruse and Preston?
No, that Preston probably have a good idea.
Yeah, there's kind of a central meeting point, and then they do a safety brief and then divvy up kind of some crews with their capabilities.
So
But you,
go ahead.
oh, so like last year we had a professional tree crew, Stars and Stripes. They went and did a couple removals, and then me and some other volunteers, we just went and did some mainly sucker pruning and just small tree pruning.
Structural stuff, that small stuff.
Yeah.
Well, is that not something you want to do, Preston?
Well, unless Stars and Stripes is on board, unless we have a full tree crew coming out, if we're just doing the little small
I
structural
gotcha.
pruning. Yeah,
Well-
like I want to make sure that we actually get some real work done.
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that up to you. We'll leave that up to you. How's that? You and Chris, because I just realized I'm not going to be here again. I'm going to be on the beach, but y'all be fine. I know that the National Cemetery, had a special place for you, and I just thought that not for you, but in your heart.
Yeah. Well, they got space for me there when I need it.
Yeah, it's there when you need it, but don't go now, okay? So y'all handle that.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we had a good showing if we do. I don't want to do it kind of
That's
half-assed.
awesome. I love Stars and Stripes. I mean, a great guy.
Yeah, that's why I figured he might be interested in taking over, because Jim's kind of backing out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Handle it.
Is
Okay.
Curtis-
What?
Is Curtis coming out?
I don't know. So, y'all ready to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, EAB. Blair's not with us. Do y'all know where we are on that video that they were gonna make with the city of Dallas and Josh? Preston, were you kind of working on that, huh?
Yeah, well, I was waiting to hear back from the camera studio people with the city, and they never, I don't think anyone's gotten any of those videos scheduled,
Okay.
so it didn't
Okay, so,
seem like a high priority for,
so it's on hold.
yeah.
Yeah, I just asked because Josh was gonna be in town for 2 weeks and he volunteered to go ahead and shoot that.
Oh, well, I appreciate it, but yeah, I'm still, it's kind of a
In
blackout
limbo.
from them, yeah, so.
Okay, well, Michael, are you available for a web update? We've got so much going on. I think you
Oh,
left.
yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it's been it's been over the summer. I've been working on cleaning up the public site on TBUFC.org. If you haven't gotten over there in a while, go and check it out. I've updated some graphics on there. And I'm also working on the resources page and trying to expand a little bit on just general things that about tree planting and just some basic stuff that to be informational to everybody. But I would also like to get some feedback on things that you all would like to see on the site. So if y'all will go over that and let me know if there's any particular info that you want me to create a page for, and just making sure that I can, have that available, to residents and to our citizens, just to let me know. I'll get that up there. But just putting some brainstorming, cleaning up, and getting all of our pages in working order. I also have been working, what you see today. I've been working on the Zoom capabilities. We're just getting this a try today as far as the agenda. I think it's working out pretty well.
Yeah.
And we're able to
I like it.
Hey,
kind
is this taking minutes too, Michael?
it's just doing the agenda one night now. We have to have somebody in the future. We'll need to add the outcomes on the side. Whenever we do have things that will be, that we are going to have assigned, we can put that in the outcomes section and it will send it out at the end. But that's something we can do at a future meeting. But we do have the capabilities to assign, what we decide here in the meeting, and then that will be emailed out to everybody that was on here. And we'll have that documented for our future updates. So that's again, this is some Zoom application that we're trying, and I think it's going to be pretty good. So we're just going to give that a shot. And finally, I think right now member portal we're also kind of working on keeping that cleaned up. I was just checking the memberships right now. We had one member join in at the around middle of May, and that was really the last activity we've had so far. But we're just right now just kind of finding out ways I can keep it very efficient, simple. When we get ready for our next seminar and our workshop, I'll get ready to have that ready to go for when we do tickets and registrations. I've got some ideas on. I've also got a new design made for the name cards. When everybody get when they register, they'll be able to get. We have a design with our branded logo, which I think will be really cool that we can give it to put everybody's name on. So we've got some little things in the works that we just have available. But really, just right now, summer's been a good cleanup and kind of getting ready for our fall. And I think that's about it. And I guess I'll give it back to you, Susan.
Well, that's a great job. If you haven't looked at the website, I hadn't been on in several weeks, and I went on, and it comes up much faster, and it looks much cleaner. I like it.
Thank you.
A good job.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
The other thing is that Michael has looked at the other Urban Forestry Council websites around, and ours is really rocking comparatively.
I think Houston has a pretty good site as well, with a lot of information. As far as what I've seen, that in Cross Timbers is really has information and is real basic, but that's really about it. There's only like 3 of them that are real active as far as having a presence on the web. So I'm very impressed with, just at least trying to keep all of our information up and available, as a good resource.
Mike, is the West Texas Council still operational?
Well, as far as a web presence, I don't believe that. I think theirs was offline. When I would check their link, I think it was.
Mike
I noticed.
Mr. Sills, is West Texas chapters of the Urban Forestry Council still going?
I assume so.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to say that, Michael, you're doing a great job. I really appreciate the notifications because I don't always, the email notifications, because I don't always stick that in my calendar, and I feel like you're staying on top of me. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah.
And then I appreciate too, when I send you the emails about the ISA tree conference
Yeah.
scholarships and those types of things. So for everyone else, when I get those down the chain from Mac, Michael Levy is my first drop off point with those with that information, because he can just stick it on our portal, and people that are members of it, they can see that stuff. And because it takes me a little while to put out a e-blast, because I go to Jenny, my wife, to do that, because I like to use MailChimp. It puts a little but it puts it in a little better format. It's easier to read, and I like to do that, but I don't know all the ins and outs. She does, so it's a little bit of a lag time. But with this setup, I can just, as soon as I get the email, I can just pop it over to Michael, and he's made something out of it. And so that, I think it really helps in that aspect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And one more quick thing. You mentioned MailChimp. Matter of fact, I'm moving all of our email blasts over to MailChimp just for simplicity, as well as it's great integration with our website when it comes to our list and for folks registering. So right now we had about 108 on our list that we're sending out emails to, which is wonderful, and we'll just continue to grow. But everybody should have received the reminder early this week or over at the end of last weekend for this meeting. If you haven't, please let me know. But that was through MailChimp, and it's a little bit easier to work with. And I know Chris is going to work on some membership stuff. I think that will also be a very easy integration that we'll be able to use. It works very nice hand in hand with our website. So anyway, we'll be doing some more with MailChimp, and we'll just keep on polishing up. And I'll also do a few videos on how to use MailChimp for those that might want to do a list or something. But yep, that's all I've got.
Well, you are doing a great job. And if you need to get something up, send it to support@tbufc.org, and Michael will get it up, and if you find interesting articles, things like that. And just be professional about it. Let's get that stuff up. We have to get the information out. Thank you, Michael.
Welcome.
And thanks, Mike, for those comments. Mr. Sills, he needs that. He needs that support. Also, Preston, have you had a chance? I know I just have your name by social media, because that's where we were before. And you probably haven't even had a chance, but eventually we're going to have to look at some of this guy's Facebook, Twitter. Or is any of this active? Are we doing any of that now?
Not that I'm aware of. I asked Phil if he had any of the accounts and passwords anywhere. He said he was going to look into it. I know I need to remind him.
Okay. Well, we need to pick that up. And I know it's summer.
Yeah.
But we just keep it on the agenda, and we just keep picking away at it till we get it.
Yeah, and since I don't think we ever had one, I could make us a LinkedIn, which I think that'd be a good place to, especially to share the seminars and stuff. There's other tree workers on there.
That's a good idea. Also, Mike pointed out now that, we can do webinars and charge for them. So, if we can put workshops together and put them on the web. Just remember that. But appreciate your assistance in that, Preston. And then that urban forestry management planning workshop. Are we doing anything yet, Mark?
Mike and I got together last week when we were talking about it. So we're going to set up a meeting here in the next couple of weeks and get that moving along.
Cool. Yeah, keep plugging. that made a big hit too. And
Yeah,
then,
and I'll send an invite to everyone on the board. And
Okay.
whoever wants to be on that committee can be on that committee.
sweet.
And also, I have been going to these towns, I think at least two. I don't think I've been to four of them yet, but just providing, going and introducing myself and giving them that those EAB and the storm plan, really the whole folder that explains what their urban forester, regional urban forester does for them.
Good job, Mike.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, do we have a target date kind of set for when we want to do our next workshop? Are we looking at like November?
No, I know, I think that Amy is the champion of that bilingual thing.
So maybe we're looking for February. Is that what you're thinking? Like, I don't want to do it
I'm not
when,
thinking anything. I think it's
Oh,
Amy.
it was
We need-
already set, Mark, because of if I remember correctly, didn't mean to
Oh.
put it in, but it was already set up because the speakers were picked and they're gonna be in town or
okay,
in the area for that time. And I believe it was like either the week before or the week of, a couple of days before.
okay. I was talking about our UFMP workshop. I didn't realize we were talking about.
Oh, I
Amy's
didn't
workshop.
either. But I thought we were talking about yours, then we got off on that one, but I don't know. On yours, Mike,
When did you say Amy's was again?
it's I think like February 20th for some reason, and stick it in my mind.
Okay. But after the new year, okay.
So if we wanted to have one in the fall, we could maybe look at that, but these things, there's just a lot of
There's a lot of work
preparation.
involved. Yeah. Well, Mike, I think this time we could include some of our own people in that workshop, and that would kind of take the
Oh,
load
yeah. There's-
on finding speakers.
Yeah, it's a total different ball game from here on out. That first one was just that's a whole different bear. I appreciate everyone just kind of being patient with my thought process there, and but that
It turned out
reaching out to
great.
them and then going back and doing this whole plan thing. I know that we didn't even make a formal invitation to Dallas because they got it so together in the management plan standpoint. But I was talking to Karen the other day, and she's sending me their EAB stuff, and that I'm going to send that on the Mac, but that should take place of that management plan that printed plan that we give communities. And so that will be a feather in all of our caps, that we have a community out there that's got that plan.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea. So just keep us updated on that and keep the good work up. But
Does Amy have a committee for her?
not yet that I'm aware of.
I was encouraging her to have the same commit, roll it into our committee, because we've still got leftovers from the first workshop, like people that paid that didn't
Right.
come, and Frisco is really the only one that stands out.
Okay, Mike, I'll set that up and send it out.
Okay, guys, good job. And let us know. We're all in it
And
together.
then are we using any kind of certain program, like MailChimp or something to set that up? Or am I just setting up the meeting through my own Outlook?
I don't know where Mike went, but that would be
Mike Levy.
yeah, Mike, just ask Mike how to get it out.
Yeah, I can get one out, no problems. Just send me some details and I can set something up for you.
Okay. I mean, you can show me too. Maybe we'll spend some time. You can show me how to do it. You don't have.
Yeah,
shouldn't have to
oh,
do
sure.
everything.
Happy
Oh,
to.
yeah. And
Yeah.
the
Easily.
more we know, the better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
he made a video so we can figure out how to produce our own Zoom meetings. So committees
Okay.
can have their
Oh.
own Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll sit in on that meeting too, Michael. And yeah, videos are great, but we're antiquated a bit. At least I am.
Don't
Right.
worry.
I
No,
had to call Levy and go, I went, no, the video, no. Tell me.
Yeah, we like that interaction.
I'm a patient person, very much.
He's very patient. So yeah, Mike, he'll hang with you till he gets you.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
He's been putting up with all of us, you know.
Mhm.
But boy, send any correspondence you have for Mike, send it
Yeah.
to support@TBUFC and he'll get right back with you.
Okay.
It's not just about sending him stuff to put up. If you need help, send him an email right there. He's on it. And then
Got it.
I was going to tell you about the Speakers Bureau, guys. We're still looking for videos and articles, and Mike has got all these that he's categorizing, bless his heart, so we can put them up. But in addition, I had a TV show in Grand Prairie called Let's Get Growing for several years, and so Mike's gonna put those up. We're gonna post those, and there's some tree stuff in there, but mostly it's what you should be doing in your yard or your landscape every month. And it talks about pruning and mulching and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be some added content. And then the Texas Tree Trail update, I guess we kind of got that from Josh. Mr. Hauser's not with us. But once again, he says just keep plugging along.
Yeah, and especially if any of y'all, I mean, city arborist, sales arborist, I mean, it's what I did is I had them just give me ones for Dallas. And I just went out to pine trees while I was in between appointments. And I just took some pictures, measured it. So it is something that you can kind of work into your workday. So it's worth talking to him about. It's a lot of fun. People always come to you and ask you what you're doing. Some people don't even know they have a championship tree, and so it's pretty cool to be a part of it.
Amen. It's fun when you go out and you're standing underneath those big trees.
Josh,
Mhm.
what happens when you go on private property and it says keep out?
I keep out where I ring the doorbell. It kind of depends on the neighborhood I'm in, but yeah, when I went to one in, it's kind of up near Colleyville. It was essentially a ranch, and some guy talked me on the intercom and sent his ranch hand over to let me in, and yeah, he didn't know he even had championship trees. But yeah, you don't hop any fences is kind of my
I'm gonna put that in the minutes. Don't hop fences.
yeah.
Have a shotgun pulled on you pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, we're gonna move on in that Texas Urban Forestry Council involvement. Josh, you weren't with us last month, but Mr. Sills, Mike said that he would take that position if you thought it was good. But in the meantime, he's gone. I'm here, Mike. So when do they meet?
They hasn't been, last time I heard it hadn't been set yet, but it should be soon. But yeah, Mac should know that. But yeah, Mike said he would do it. And I think he's a good fit.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were. I thought you'd respond. For that first meeting, Mike, I'd kind of like to participate too, just to see what's going on. I'm not going to be the rep. I want you to be rep, but I just want to, if you'll keep me involved for that date. So I can, if it's okay, I sit in. Hello?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I mean, I've never been to one.
Oh, okay. Then I've got to contact him anyway, Mike. I'll find out. How's
Okay.
that? Or you can too.
And what was that? What is that for?
That's for the Texas Urban Forestry Council, and they meet quarterly, Mark.
Urban Forestry Congress.
Congress, excuse
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Congress. So,
Well, if you want to go, then go. I don't have
you
to.
have to go? I thought it was Zoom. I'm not going anywhere. I just,
Yeah, they meet in person is, that's what I thought. I could be wrong, but if you
No,
want
that's my
to, if you want to do it, then
no,
that's
I don't want
fine.
to do it, Mike. I just wanted to be in on the first meeting to hear what's going on.
I always thought it was an in-person thing, that they bring people all over the state and they bring them down and they sit them down. I don't know.
Well, that's the way it used to be. So it could very well still be that way. It's really neat too to be, I like meeting in person, but we'll find out. I'll call Mac.
And Mike, if you need some extra help, I can help you with that too.
Appreciate it.
All right,
So who's going to call Matt?
I am.
Okay.
And then I'll tell them that y'all want to get involved and I just want to know what's going on. How's that?
Well, that's the whole purpose in it. You send a delegate out there, they get the information, they bring it back to the whole group.
Okay, Mike. That works. Board retreat, we've already been over that many times, so I'm just gonna skip over that. And then we're gonna continue to go on with this long-term planning. And most of these are, you're kind of our contact on, Mr. Sills, like the city of Irving, but I know that you're staying in touch with all these people, right?
Right.
Not constant contact, but I mean, you're in contact with them. Like, how's Sonia doing at Dallas?
She's doing fine. It's just, it's kind of hard to get a beat on her sometimes. You know, she started in with this, telling me about, you know, she's always wanted to include these kids in with these workshops that we do, and then have that count for their Arbor Day stuff. But then at a moment's notice, she's going to another like Texas Trees Foundation, or no, I think it was Davy Tree Company, and having them, you know, sorry, let me back up. When I explained to her that I can't do a tree inventory for her myself, then she goes to, you know, brings up Davy Tree that's doing the tree inventory, but including the kids. And it's just hard sometimes in our conversation to kind of nail her down what's going on. I haven't talked to her since my last conversation, and
Well,
so
just
she
hang
was-
in there. You know what I mean?
what?
Eventually, because we're a nonprofit. Davy's not. They're in it for money. Dallas County colleges don't have any money. Eventually, they're going to come back around.
Okay. So, well, that's what, yeah, I understand that, but I'm sitting there having a conversation, and it's just like running around in a circle. And so I guess they're doing pretty good, because
Yeah, you're doing
I think I might have said something that kind of left her. I don't know. I just said, well, good luck or something like that. So I don't know. I know that it's July, and the Tree Campus Higher Education and Tree City stuff was going to be cooking here pretty soon, and I'm trying to get out ahead of folks to get that stuff done. I hadn't come back around to her since that last conversation, because I don't know, she was reaching out to me for help, but when I always do this with her, tell her what I can do, and I'm not trying to throw her under the bus or anything, but she's got a lot going on, and she's trying to fill a lot of holes in the dam, and it's just hard to find a one fix one,
Right.
you know, one
I
fix for
totally
all of it.
understand, Mike. I mean, bless your heart. Working with government or organizations is just so hard, and it does, it just goes round and round, and you just have to learn to kind of bite your tongue and, sit on your hands, because what goes around comes around.
Well, if I sit on my hands and bite my tongue anymore, I might as well just go on vacation for the rest of my life, so.
Okay,
Where are you going?
yeah, I was Pacific Northwest. I mean, everybody else is going there. Oh, God.
I'm going to Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
But Mike, we
We did-
do,
I'm gonna go burn down a courthouse.
Oh,
we do your frustration there.
I'm gonna go squat on the courthouse lawn.
there you go.
Okay, so onward through the fog, and just hang in there, Mike. We appreciate you. And then our next meeting is gonna be August 24th, at 12 o'clock. Is there anything else that anybody would like to cover or add to the meeting?
Oh, sorry.
Is that your puppy?
It is. That's why I've been kind of, you see me dealing with him out of frame sometimes, but yes, he's
Mine's asleep, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna be playing with him too. It's rope-a-dope's what I call him, because we play with the rope.
Mhm.
But anyway,
I got one thing. Are we gonna have any type of presence at the Southwest Park and Rec Training Institute in Oklahoma in February?
in February, what about it, Jonathan?
I was wondering if we wanted to have like a presence out there.
Oh, yeah, we need to keep that on the agenda. Was there a cost for that, Jonathan?
I think there is to register as a vendor.
Okay,
I can look
What
into it.
was that called again?
Southwest Park and Rec Training Institute.
Okay.
you should go to that, Mark. Your city would probably pay for it too.
Yeah. Well,
It's a good
we're
deal.
down 5 people in my department, so there's plenty of training money.
Yeah. And they have CEUs available too.
Yeah, and it's really geared toward the maintenance side.
Yeah, it is. As compared to like traps, which
Yeah.
is for recreation.
Mhm.
So it
Ah.
really is it's a nice, it kind of levels it out. The training. Anyway, August 24th, and thank you, John, for it. What's up, Preston?
Oh, nothing. I just made a noise.
Oh, okay. You lit up. So, guys, if there's nothing else to add, I would just like to say thank you to Jonathan. Anything you want to add, Jonathan?
No, not it.
Oh, not you. I meant Joshua. I'm looking straight at you.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, but
hey, my husband's what's his name,
That guy over there, you know?
yeah, just like I said, it's been great working with y'all. I'll get my personal email and phone number sent out. So if any of y'all want to reach out, yeah, be good to stay in touch.
You bet. You have no idea. That's a great, I'm so excited for you, but remember, there are no access roads.
Yeah. It's a little different up there. Less traffic though. So I'm okay with no access roads if you have less traffic.
Working for
Amen.
the city of Portland.
Yeah, I'm gonna be Lake Oswego is where they're based out of, but they service Portland proper and surrounding areas. So
He
looking
could have
forward to
gone,
it.
he could have gone to Seattle, but he decided to go to Portland.
Yeah, didn't Portland was a better fit.
Amen. So we really appreciate you.
Liberal, you're gonna be liberal.
That's everybody saying like, you sure about all that?
Just join Antifa. You'll be okay.
Okay, guys, well, if there's nothing else to add, I appreciate you. I know it's summer, I know it's hot, trying to stay alive, and I'll see you in August. Josh,
Bye, all.
call.
Good luck, Josh. Thanks for all the help.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Yeah, man, good time.
guys
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah.
Bye,
Yeah.
guys.
Bye all.
Right.